You're listening to Journaling with PT. I am your host, artist P.T. Russell. Today, I want to introduce you to one of the most brilliant artists I've ever met. His name is Avery Gibbes, and he's going to take you on a journey to his world of the weirdos of another universe. Stay tuned. Hello.
Hi, VT.
Today, I have a brilliant artist, a graduate of the Ontario College of Art and Design, also known as OCAD. Brilliant. Now, Avery, you're right off of your first solo exhibition, and just a few months ago. How did that go for you?
It was nice. It was a little bit ago. It was at the beginning of the year, but yeah. It was just. I guess I hadn't had a chance to really see all my work all together like that before. So I guess it was just a really. I guess it was just nice to see it all together. Kind of like all the years of work so far, kind of all culminating in that show.
And that was spectacular for anyone who missed it. Spectacular. The colors were just mesmerizing. It's like you had the whole side of that wall just illuminated with the beauty of your art.
Thank you.
Wonderful experience. Yes, I had.
Well,
and and so I was curious about, when did you actually start art or painting?
I drew a lot as a kid. I didn't really start painting until high school, I guess, but I drew all the time as a kid. That was always my thing, was drawing. It was mostly as a kid, I would mostly just draw whatever I was really into. It wasn't necessarily fine art based or anything like that. It was just what any other interest that I had. If I that you have when you're a kid, I would just express that interest by drawing whatever it was repeatedly all the time.
So you use mostly pencils, crayons?
Yeah, pencil, crayons, marker. I'd have my sketchbooks, and that's what I would always do.
And what was a young Avery interested in at the time? You said you were interested in whatever you were interested in.
Whatever. Whatever a little kid would be interested in. Really young, it would just be you draw cars or whatever, and then I definitely had my Star Wars phase. I drew Star Wars stuff all the time.
Yeah, we all did.
Yeah. At a certain point, I still love football, so I always drew the football players, and I loved the colors of the uniforms and all that.
Yeah, and which team did you have a favorite player or team, just out of curiosity?
This is gonna sound funny to anybody who actually knows football, but my favorite team was always the Arizona Cardinals, because when I started watching, the year that I started watching happened to be the year that they went all the way to the Super Bowl. But they're ordinarily, that's pretty unusual for them. They're not usually one of the better teams.
Yeah, I'm curious. Arizona, what was it again?
Arizona Cardinals.
Cardinals.
Yeah.
What attracted you to this team? I mean, I know it's a little off a little segue, but I'm just curious.
I started watching them because my dad loved the player Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner used to play for the St. Louis Rams, and they were really good back in the day. But but he started doing good. He started playing for the Cardinals, and they started doing well. So we started watching Arizona games because he would be like, "You should watch Kurt Warner."
Okay, it's for Kurt Warner. Okay.
And then just that, basically, nobody expected them to be any good or like to pose a serious threat at all, and then they ended up going all the way to the Super Bowl and getting really close to winning. So I think I just really loved the whole underdog story of it, and I kind of related to, I mean, maybe as like a quieter kid and as an artist, I kind of related to sort of the underdog, overlooked sort of identity that they had.
Yes.
And so that's kind of why they've always been.
So Avery, about your choice of colors and your palette, what inspires that? What influences what colors you choose?
I would say, I guess, I mean, obviously, I choose my colors based, obviously, I consider, what the feeling of the painting would be. Sometimes it's just a matter of like, I haven't used this color in combination with this color yet, and I think that would be interesting. So I want to see how that would turn out. Sometimes the color is sometimes it's a matter of thinking of choosing colors that are purposely not Earth-like, or seem like another world or something.
Which takes us into this journey to this other world that you've created.
Yeah.
Called Weirdos of Another Universe.
Yeah.
So take us for a deep dive into this world that you created.
So this is a body of work that follows its paintings, and they follow a general story about a small population of humans that find themselves in this alien world, and the paintings sort of follow them as they learn and grow and sort of find their way within this world. And it's just about the feeling of entering another world and sort of that feeling of being an outsider that you have when entering a new environment. And sort of, I mean, whether it's like maybe you are beginning a different phase of your life, you're entering a new career path, you're starting down, or you move to a new place, you're getting used to being in a new place, or maybe you're just, the world changes around you, the situation is suddenly different and you're adjusting to that.
Everyone can relate to that.
Yeah. I mean, my most personal connection, I mean, for me, what the perspective that influences it is just kind of the natural feeling of being the natural outsider feeling that you have just from being an artist, I guess. But I don't want it to just be, I like to describe it more in a broader sense to make it apply more than just, to more people than just that,
Yes. Yeah, it is. It is fascinating. When I first saw that, especially this one particular piece is always my favorite. I think it's called How to Play. How do you pronounce that?
Learning how to play Baltobian toss.
Baltobian?
Yeah.
Baltobian toss. The colors and I mean, they just are so alluring. And it caught my eye right away. And this has this energy as well. That particular piece is my favorite, but all of your pieces are gorgeous. And again, it's amazing what you have how you've created this whole world. I was curious about, will you extend this world? Is this world never ending?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I like to keep, as in, like, if you mean, like, am I going to just keep going with the series?
Yes.
Yeah. yeah, I plan to keep going. Like I don't make the pieces chronologically. Like to me,
Right.
it's, I'll have an idea and then I'll kind of, as I'm working on it or maybe towards the end of the process, I'll usually have an idea of like, if I was to order these paintings kind of chronologically, this one would probably fit around
Mm-hmm.
the beginning or around the middle or the end or whatever. Um, Usually it just has to do whatever sort of the sense I have of the human in the picture. If it seems like in this painting they're sort of out of sorts and they're haven't made themselves like haven't gotten used to this environment that
Right.
they're in the painting, then that's
Yeah.
probably more towards the beginning of the story maybe.
Right.
Whereas if it's a painting where they seem sort of more comfortable, they found their place more where they fit in, um,
Mm-hmm.
then that's probably something I would place more towards the end of the story in my head, or like I guess the closest thing to like the way that I have them all ordered on my website, I guess, is
Yeah.
the way that I think of them, like chronologically as a story. But
Okay.
I like to leave it pretty loose. Like that's why I don't have like one specific character that I follow through this story.
Okay.
Because I mean, I always say it's a small population of humans in this alien world, but most of the paintings, a lot of them only picture one human figure, just so that you kind of
Right.
get the personal perspective um, of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the small population as opposed to just one singular figure or like one
Right.
singular person human in the story, just because it kind of recalls the idea that you're never alone in whatever situation you're in, even if you feel like you are. There's always, even if you're part of a minority, um,
Yeah.
there's still other people around you not too far who are experiencing a similar thing.
Yes. It's everything is like I said, everything's so fascinating about it. Even the titles that you choose. Where does inspiration come from? The how to play Baltobi and Toss, for example. Where does that come from?
um that one, I don't that one was an earlier paint that one was from earlier on. Most of the time,
Oh,
I guess that's the tricky thing with coming up with made up words, because they have to, I mean, they can't already exist. So usually when I'm trying to come up with a name for something that is a made up word, um, usually I end up having to like Google the word and make sure it doesn't already exist and make sure it doesn't already mean something in a different language that people are going to interpret it as having something to do with, even though it doesn't. And
yeah.
basically, and a common, but also a combination of sounds that sound good together.
That sounds really good. At least that particular title. I've watched your channel extensively because just to watch you with the art and then you have this segment with the guitar. Are you playing the guitar or is that air guitar?
No, that's me.
Oh, awesome.
So the first, so I have on my channel right now, I have 4 videos where I actually do painting. So I have 4 painting videos.
Hmm.
And so for the first 2, I just used music that, from songs or from instrumental parts from songs that I like that I thought would fit the video time lapse portions well.
Hmm.
And that were, and I think that, musically it works really well in the video. I was happy with it. The only problem is that um, their video, like it's music, it's not free music. Like they're just from bands,
Yeah.
stuff that I have from CDs that I have, um, because I want to use music that's, that is true to me. Like I don't want to, a lot of the background music or like the free copyright free music that you can use on YouTube, it
Yeah.
is kind of like slow and just kind of background music. It doesn't carry the energy that I want the music in my
Right.
videos to carry. So I
Yeah.
use like faster guitar or rock music.
You can play. You can really play. I knew it sounded like it was you, but we never had a conversation about your skill as a guitarist.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, thanks. Well, yeah. So after the second video, there was after the second video, I decided I didn't want to. I wanted to have, so YouTube would always give me like a copyright claim saying it recognized this song and this song by this artist in my
Oh
video.
man.
So and it would one of the songs that I had would always get blocked, always get my video blocked just in Russia for whatever reason.
Oh wow.
So I was like, okay, well that's okay, but I'd still rather not have it blocked anywhere.
Precisely.
So I was like, okay, well, I know how to play the guitar. I'll just make up my own music and play that in the video.
That's awesome. And it works so well because you're playing, there's these art, you call it art jam.
Yeah,
Well, art jam rocks, to be honest. And because you're playing and you're painting and they go so well together. Do you normally listen to rock music as you paint, or what kind of music do you listen to?
Yeah, it's usually
Mm-hmm.
usually rock, metal. Sometimes sometimes I'll listen to podcasts or like interviews,
Mm-hmm.
YouTube videos too. Like I think uh more recently, for a while it was more recently it was like YouTube interviews and podcasts and stuff having to do with, whatever different things, music. It's I like actually listening to interviews with creative people, because when you hear them talking about their art or their music or whatever, and getting deep into their creative process, and you're listening to that while you're doing your creative thing, it's helps inspire you while you're making your work.
Yeah, now you can listen to yourself.
I probably won't do that, but
Why not? You have to.
uh,
Uh,
I,
that's just great. One of the things that, because there's your art is just like multi-dimensional. It looks like it really takes you into another world. So, uh, folks are listening, creatives, artists, just art lovers, you have to check out his channel. Your channel is
it's just my name, Avery Gibbes.
with an E.
Yeah.
I'll have everything in the show notes later. But yeah, the sketching that you do, I noticed that you did sketching on paper, but do you ever sketch on your canvas at all?
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah. I don't like. Well, most of the time. Well, I was. Yeah. I mean, I always found that if I drew on my canvas, like the pencil, the graphite would mix in with the paint that I would paint over top of it, and it would kind of muddy the paint a bit.
Right.
And yeah, and well, I don't know. Yeah,
So
I like to paint
yeah.
shapes. I don't like to paint lines and then fill them in, even though on some of my paintings, you can, like, I think on my most recent video, I kind of did that. I kind of like outlined my shape and then filled it in. But
Yeah.
other times I just like to just paint the shapes without outline. Like, it's hard to explain. I don't know if I'm
Yeah.
doing a very good job explaining that, but
Yeah, you're pretty good. Yeah, because I was just, yeah, because what the sketching, and I didn't see any grids on your sketch, and I was wondering how you kind of transfer that to canvas. And your video, about, I didn't see it in your video, but I was like fascinated about that, about how you would remember where everything is. Is it just because of just practice?
how I remember where, how I transfer my everything on my small piece of paper
Yes,
to
to your canvas, so a larger canvas.
I just eyeball it and, use um it's about, if one part of the picture, if one structure or form goes to about a third of the way from the left side of the canvas, I'll make sure, okay, I'll paint it onto the, sorry, if it goes about a third of the way from the left side of the drawing on my piece of paper, then when I do it on the canvas, I'll be like, okay, I'll make sure I draw it or paint it so that it goes until about a third from the left of the canvas. But a lot of it's, like I usually, if I have a drawing, if I draw it out, then I have a pretty good idea in my head of what I want it to look like as a painting, and sort of the space, the logic behind the spacing in it.
Okay.
So like it's a two-dimensional drawing, but I understand it in my head three-dimensionally.
Okay. Well, that makes things a little clearer, because I was trying to figure out, I know some people sketch either with paint or marker or graphite or whatever onto the canvas and then paint it in, and or they have a grid system, or they do a transfer, or all these things. And about tone, you tone or not to tone? Do you tone?
Do I tone?
Yes, it don't tone your canvas. Sometimes I think there was an experiment you had where you were trying whether or not you're going to tone and put the colors on, or just leave it white.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, usually I don't. But in that video, that you saw, I did paint the canvas purple before I painted the painting on top of it. So it has its share of benefits and drawbacks, from what I found. Like, I think the benefit is if you paint your canvas like with a mid-tone color before painting over top of it with the painting that you want to make, I find that it helps it come together a lot quicker in the beginning, because one of the most difficult things about painting on top of just a blank white canvas is that white color is going to be brighter than every single color that you have in your painting, just about anyway. So it's like, until you have all of the white covered up, the highlights that you have painted in your painting aren't going to look like highlights, because they're still going to be darker than the white canvas that's still showing. And so that makes it a little confusing. And then everything else looks darker in comparison to that little bit of white that you still have showing, until you get that white covered up, and then suddenly the whole painting looks lighter than it did. And you usually have to go back in and darken areas and whatnot. But at the same time, I found that when I did that video where I did have the underlayer of color, I found I used oil paint, and maybe I don't know, I just found that when I painted the painting up top of it, the first layer of paint kind of got absorbed a little bit by the underlayer. And it kind of caused that the paint that I put over top of it to kind of lose a bit of its vibrance. So I ended up having to go back over everything and sort of reestablish it, which it ended up looking better in the end than it would have.
That's what's important.
Yeah, it ended up
the result
was great. Like, it ended up turning out better, I think, than had I just painted that first layer and it didn't lose any of its vibrance. I still think the end result was better, but it was just a lot more work, a lot more painting at the end.
It's beautiful, and I'm hoping that everyone checks out Avery's video channel on YouTube. Avery Gibbes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on his website as well. Well, I have those things in the show notes. But in closing, speaking about your education at the Ontario College of Art and Design, what is one of the most useful skills you'd say that you'd learned from being in art school?
Useful, like For art, you mean? Like as far
Yes.
as being an artist? And
I mean, it can be anything. It can be anything.
I would say like the biggest thing that I learned from art school and from being around all my creative peers,
Mm-hmm.
in as it pertains to like creating art, would be how to think intuitively about my art, I guess. Or like,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to explain, but it's like not trying to think practically about everything. Just like
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I understand.
Like
It's giving you a different perspective on your process, eh?
like sometimes you know that something, when you have an idea that's good, like that excites you,
Mm-hmm.
but there isn't like a logical reason as to, oh, it's because it's about this, or it's because it means this. It's just like learning to follow those ideas, even though that follow those ideas that excite you, um, even if you don't fully understand why
Mm-hmm.
it is that they excite you, and just work with them and sort of follow your gut, and being like, you know, if there's a certain part of the picture that you know is working, and there's another part that you just sort of intuitively know isn't
Mm-hmm.
right and you need to fix it.
Yeah.
I guess thinking more intuitively and responding to more, um, kind of developing my visual language on an abstract level, I guess.
Okay. All right. Well, that's sounds like it's a tremendous plus for you, for sure, or for anyone who would have delved into that and went to that school or who goes to an art school. And for anyone listening who's thinking about going to art school, what are some of the benefits that you would say that you have experienced at going to art school?
Um, well, like I think, well, the biggest benefit was like I just said, like learning
Mm-hmm.
how to think more intuitively about my creative process. But I mean, being with other artists is also
Mm-hmm.
the big benefit. The biggest benefit that I had, like the biggest way that I benefited, was just from working at school all the time, not,
Right.
taking my projects home and doing them at home. That's what I did a while at the beginning, because, everything was new, and, it's sometimes hard. It's hard to make art, um, in an environment where you're not comfortable,
Yes.
because there's a certain vulnerability and when you make art, because, there's when people can see what you're working on before, you're done, or um, because your art is, it comes from you, it comes from,
Yeah.
um,
Very personal.
yeah, so it's
Yeah.
so in the beginning it can be hard to work in a new environment, but I think once you get comfortable and, um, being
Mm-hmm.
around your creative peers, I mean, it helps you not feel alone, because I think, especially when you're young, it's easy to
Mm-hmm.
feel like you're alone as an artist. uh,
Right.
So if you can have those friends, that support group around you, and also, I mean, when everybody's being creative, it also just, I mean, you feed off the energy of
Right.
everybody. When somebody's working on something and they're trying something new, and then, people can go over and be like, oh, that's really cool. I didn't know that, especially when you know that person, what they usually do, and you can see that they're doing something that's outside of what they usually do, and it's actually very interesting, then it sort of gives you the energy to be like, well, I should try something outside the box for me now. And,
Right.
and everybody gets excited over that. And it's just, it's an environment that, rewards going outside the box, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that is great because sometimes there's a debate about it whether or not people should go to art school or not, and so I wanted to get that perspective. And some people are self-taught, some people decide to go. And I guess it depends on the person, the personality, whomever it is and what they want out of their experience. And so what you're saying is for especially for a younger person, to go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely
Awesome.
got exposure to a lot more art in art school than I would have if I didn't go. I guess I can say that for sure. Like,
Yeah.
and it helps you to sort of develop a taste for art as well, because it's not, I find art, well, I mean, there's lots of different kinds of art, I should say. Like, fine art
Mm-hmm.
isn't sort of readily available easily, I guess, to the average person, other than maybe on social media.
Right.
But there's so much, and I guess he you don't get to hear about you don't get to get that firsthand experience of seeing it made. When you have your peers around you working,
Right.
you
Mm-hmm.
get to know their creative process, and that really helped me too. Sort of seeing my peers work and seeing their creative process and taking things from that. But I got exposed to a lot more outside the box kinds of art and kinds of ways of thinking about art and making art.
Much more immersive experience to have to be in the school and to be surrounded by it all the time. And yeah,
Yeah,
sounds like a good time.
you don't get to see art in person very often I think in your regular life. Maybe if you have a gallery nearby, you can go there every so often, but like, it's not like music, I don't think, where it's just so.
Well, it's about perspective, because to be honest, you can find art in basically everything. It depends on how you're looking at life and what lens you're looking at life with, because you know what I mean. It's like, oh yeah, there is fine art and there are paintings and sculptures,
Yeah, yeah,
but the beauty of art is the outdoors. It's a butterfly, it's flowers, it's a building. Architecture is beautiful depending on what it is. And yeah, I guess it's all about perspective, but I definitely get where you're coming from. It's awesome.
yeah. No,
Absolutely.
I agree with what you said there too. It's all, I mean, there's different kinds of art too. Like, I mean,
Yes.
I'm thinking of fine art because that's what I studied.
Yes.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but there's all kinds of different, um, different genres of art and different
Yeah.
kinds of art that you find in different places.
Yeah. This has been awesome. I I can go to that world and maybe visit the world, the weirdos of another universe, and stay there for a week and then come back to Earth. I, I don't know. I think I'll have a good time. Maybe what's the piece called with the allergies? Eat some of the alien food and get an allergy.
Yeah, the allergic to alien food. That's the first video on my YouTube.
Okay. Yes. And so, Avery, it was great having you.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for taking us on this journey to the weirdos of another universe and into your world as an artist. I really appreciate you so much.
Thank you, PC. It was great talking with
You were listening to Journaling with PT and my conversation with guest artist Avery Gibbes. Today is Avery's birthday, so yay! Happy birthday, Avery! Send some love to him. His information, his contact information is in the show notes. Send him some love. Give him a follow. Follow the podcast, and see you soon. Stay tuned.